anyone that has got step parents can relate that when you first meet your mum or dad's new partner, you're never really going to know who that person is straight away. You know, there's going to be the honeymoon period where they're just, yeah, everyone's getting to know each other, you know. When my stepdad first came into the picture, he was the fun uncle. He would come with chocolates and sweets and, you know, positive, happy energy. You know, he was a big, you know, big belly guy, very, very funny, always cracking jokes. I liked being around him, to be honest. And it was only when I was making this video that I actually started to think about the influence he had on me, because if you'd asked me before, I would have said no, that he had no impact on my life at all. I remember we would sit down and we wouldn't really interact, but he would be watching CNN. He'll probably be eating food or something, and I'd always sit down and watch it with him. And if I'm to be honest, because I didn't just start watching the news or being interested in current affairs or politics from nowhere, if I have to trace it back, I would probably trace it back to sitting down on the couch with this man, you know, trying to bond with him and watching what he was watching. And he did have some kind of early influence. And then we moved to our second house. My mum and stepdad got married, my little brother's on the way, and he went from being the fun uncle to being the man of the house. And that was fine because, you know, me and my twin sister were typical Nigerian children, so we never gave this man any type of friction. There was none of this, like, you know, you're not my dad kind of thing. None of that was actually happening because me and my sister, we never had a dad. So we wanted that father figure. So in our second house, he was the man of the house, you know. My little brother was there, and there were a lot of fun family times and happy memories. We went to Margate, Seaside, and, you know, we would go to church every Sunday and things like that. So, and I remember it was the times that we would go to church that's when he would call me son, you know. So that was like a little big thing because I was very maybe sensitive to that word because I'd very rarely been called son. So when you hear it, you know, it stands out in your mind. And it was only ever in those church environments that I would hear that. But when we moved to our third house, yeah, that's when his attitude and feelings toward us became very clear. And he literally went from being the man of the house before to being just a man in the house. This man just stopped being productive. He somehow was not really working, or he didn't have a car, and then my mum was doing all of the driving and things like that. And after a while, everyone within the house, it just became like we was all doing our own thing. We was all like strangers to each other, and it was quite kind of weird to describe it. But where I got kicked out of school in year 6, so like literally just 2 or 3 months after moving to the area, me and my sister's relationship kind of changed because we weren't walking to school with each other anymore, and she was still doing her own thing. I was now doing I had my own schedule. I was going to a pupil referral unit, you know, a couple of days a week. So that kind of closeness changed. And then my mum and my stepdad's relationship, I can't pin my finger on when it actually broke apart, but it just became very normal in our house that my mum would sleep in the living room and my stepdad would stay upstairs. There were countless times of like arguments where, you know, she packed up all of these things and left it by the door and taking his key and all of that kind of stuff. It was just a normal, regular occurrence. And it's funny that even when he actually physically assaulted my mum, there was actually one incident of, you know, what they would call today domestic violence or whatever, where like he actually beat up my mum. And that was something that me, my sister, we witnessed it. We all had to grab my little brother and run out of the house, and it was all crazy. But it's funny how those things just kind of pass over and you get over it and you move on as a kid, because now when I think about it, that incident didn't even make me dislike him. But in terms of the story where we're at, we're now in about 2005, and I've just finished secondary school. Everything that's happened has happened, and it's summer, and my mum decides that she wants to move to Manchester. She's ending a relationship with my stepdad, and she wants to relocate and start a whole new life. But at that point, me and my sister had moved so many times, we didn't want to go. So we decided to stay. So it was me, my sister, and my stepdad in the house. It was crazy that his whole lifestyle was different to us, and we lived in the same house. He didn't shop for us. All of his toiletries and cosmetics were all of branded, and he had the best of everything. But where we did our shop was at Aldi or Lidl, and he clearly didn't shop at the same places that we shopped. He cooked for himself. He bought his own, groceries, his own food, everything. And when he would cook, sometimes, if you can imagine, a grown man, he would cook food and keep it underneath his bed, and only my little brother was allowed to eat from it. Those are the kind of little pathetic things that he would do, and it became so much more obvious and clearer what his attitude was like when my mum left, because things like he didn't top up the gas because he didn't need to use the hot water. He was very happy to boil a kettle and stick the hot water in the bucket and then bath like that before he goes to work. But he's not going to be at home during the day, so he hasn't got no business putting the gas on, so he doesn't put the gas on. So, but these things, like, in a lot of ways, we didn't mind, me and my sister, because it meant that we could just live our own lives, and we pretty much just ignored him. He did his own thing, we did our own thing, right? But I knew, if I'm going to be honest, that there had to have been something growing within me, like an anger towards my stepdad, because I always wanted to be treated the way that I saw my brother being treated by him, and he never gave that to me, And when I got old enough, where the kind of physical beatings were kind of slowing down and becoming less frequent because I was getting older and becoming bigger. I wouldn't be able to express myself how I felt, so I would do all of these passive aggressive things to him, like taking the top off of his deodorant and throwing it down the side of his wardrobe so he couldn't find it, because again, he had the best aftershave, he had the best everything, and we couldn't touch any of that, we couldn't use any of that. He had his own lifestyle, so I was like, okay, fuck him, take that off and ruin his day a little bit. He had Listerine mouthwash. I made sure that I diluted that. I'll leave it up to your imagination what I did there. And while I was at it, I did something to his toothbrush as well. I'll leave it up to your imagination what I did, but I'm not proud of any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I said, there was a lot of these kind of negative feelings growing within me because of the environment and the household that we was living in. And like I said, I wasn't always unhappy at home. It was the third house. That's when those feelings really kind of manifested themselves. And that's why it's so crazy that I was ending up getting kicked out of school so much, because I loved going to school. School was actually my escape from the house. So to expel me from school and to make me spend more time at home was the worst thing. But yeah, so we fast forward anyway. We get to about 2006, this summer, maybe coming towards 2007. And it's me, my stepdad, my sister, and my stepdad's nephew living in the house. We had all of these unspoken rules in our house, and there was all of these boundaries where he didn't cook for us, he didn't clean for us, and vice versa, and all of that kind of stuff. It was just everyone was doing their own thing. But on this occasion, I've come into the house, and the moment I've opened the door, I was hungry, by the way, and I've just smelt the stew and the tomatoes just cooking on the pot with the palm oil and everything. And because my stepdad was a good cook, and the very few occasions you could taste his food, yeah, I'm telling you, the guy, So now I've come in this day, right, and I'm hungry, and I know he's been cooking. And again, those unspoken boundaries, we don't eat from his food or anything like that. So I said, all right then, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna boil my own little pot of rice, right? And I'm gonna take a little bit of stew. I'm not gonna touch any of the meat, just a little bit of stew to go with my rice. No harm done. I'm midway dishing out the stew. He comes booming into the kitchen. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just getting some food. And he's like, put it back. And even though we had all of these unspoken rules in the house, I was conscious of the fact that this is actually ridiculous and pathetic that our stepdad can cook a pot of food and the children in the house are not allowed to eat it. I was at that stage where I knew that this is actually stupid. And now he's telling me to take the stew off of the rice and put it back. So this was at the time the biggest act of defiance that I could ever have shown. Because again, like I said, me and my sister, we're not like disrespectful children. We don't shout, we don't swear, we can't be rude to our elders like that. So we take all of the shit that we get from this guy. Yeah. But this day I wasn't having it. So I've got the bowl of rice in my hand. I've looked at him and I've just threw the whole thing into the sink. I said, yeah, fuck it. I didn't say that, and I just walked upstairs. Because at the end, and like I said, that might not be a big deal, but in a Nigerian household, when you're a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid doing that to your elder, that's unheard of, right? I've thrown the whole plate into the sink and I've walked upstairs. I'm fuming because I know I can't come out now. I'm hungry, I can't come back down into the kitchen until he's probably gone to work or something like that. So I'm sitting there, I'm fuming. And my door flies wide open. Now, okay, I'm talking about all of these unspoken rules and boundaries or whatnot. And I know taking his food was one of the unspoken rules, but another unspoken rule was coming into my bedroom. That never happened. I couldn't even remember the last time before that incident this man had ever stepped foot into me or my sister's room. It just didn't happen, right? My door's flown open now and this man has come in. I'm looking at him and maybe he didn't read the room. He didn't get how fucking pissed off I was. And he's come in still thinking that the father-son, elder-child dynamic still exists. But that had really gone a long time ago. You know, over the last few years, I had this simmering kind of resentment, not only to my own dad for his own kind of continued absence in my life, all of these other men who had come in, the men of the church, these people that also, in their own ways, turned their back on me because they'd come into my life. The moment we'd stop coming to the church, even in our last church in particular, I would still go, I would still attend. Like I said it in my other video, I would still go to these places. I would still want a relationship with these men of God who I'd, had spent so much time with and all of this kind of stuff. But when they would realize that my parents were not coming to the church, they weren't interested in me. I got to that stage where I cared less about being respectful to the adults in my life, right? And I've now got my stepdad, right, standing in my room, in my own personal space, pointing his finger at me with his fucking fat belly, going on that I'm being disrespectful, this and that, because I've taken a little... Get the fuck out of my room! I started going mad. Get the fuck out of my room, get... And I was just repeating it over and over again. And he wasn't getting it. He's coming into the room still thinking he's going to talk me down and tell me off. And I don't know where the strength came from. I've grabbed the man, I've put him down onto this makeshift, I had like a little sofa in my room, and I've grabbed him. I don't know where the strength came from. I've thrown him down onto it and I'm just windmilling, throwing punches, bang, bang, bang. And I think I just caught him off guard because he just didn't expect what was coming, because I was probably 16, 17 at this, no, I wasn't, probably 16 going to 17. So he didn't expect that, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit, he's screaming and shouting for his nephew, like, Kule, 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 and then my uncle Kule's run upstairs. He's Kenny, what? I laugh now when I tell the story, and like when I think about it, the guy, because obviously Uncle Kunle as well. Listen, this man was like 6 foot something. I didn't want no trouble with Uncle Kunle. He just come and the moment he come into the room, I think I just backed off straight away, yeah. And I just started, ranting and hyping like a roadman, like, don't fucking come into my room again. But yeah, a week later he moved out of the house, and then it was just me, my sister, and his nephew that were left. But this 2-year period, despite that minor domestic blip, it was actually a period of good behaviour from me, in the sense that I was in college full time. I wasn't getting into trouble. There was no police issues or anything like that, and I know it's because there was this expectation on me that I was going to do wrong, that I was going to mess up somehow. And I always had that feeling that people expected the worst of me. So I always just wanted to prove people wrong.